police arrived in a William Hill store because a customer had won £12,500.
What was the reason that he called the police on me?
He hasn't got the cash to pay you out the cash.
Right, so he's called the police because he's not got the cash to pay me out.
Now, the police didn't realise it, but they were being used for bottom line greed here.
He tried to make a situation out of it, and what he tried to do, he tried to humiliate me by getting the alarm for me to leave the shop, and it's like, you owe me £6,500.
So in this video, I'm going to expose everything because I've got the CCTV footage, victims' camera phone footage, betting slips, and investigated fully. The findings appear to be way more sinister than it initially looks. Quite literally, every UK citizen should be worried about this.
You owe me money, they owe me money. They still owe me it.
Is this going to be any store that it goes to?
So on the evening of August 14th, 3 bet slips were placed in William Hill's Starbeck store. The bets were on several variations between 2 tennis matches and a football match. The total stake was around £2,400 paid in cash. Now, I've spoken to the victim at length about this, and his cash was taken without issue. The William Hill staff didn't show any interest in conducting checks of any kind when they placed the bet. Now remember that, because it's a crucial point for later on, particularly when you consider William Hill was fined £19.2 million at the beginning of the year for failing to carry out social responsibility and money laundering checks. Despite some people quite clearly having an addiction, the company has let them carry on betting until they have nothing left. However, in this case, our punter's luck was in. You see, all 3 of his betting slips won, the total return being just shy of 12.5 grand. Now, he didn't realise it, but this was about to escalate into a full-scale nightmare with 4 different shop visits, the police being called twice, contact to his MP, the Daily Mail, and an extreme interrogation of his personal finances.
Are you going to give me your name? Are you going to speak to me like an adult? Are you going to give me your details?
I'd rather not, thank you.
After the exhilarating win, he promptly arrived at the store to collect his profits. The William Hill staff didn't have that kind of cash in the shop, so the 2 girls behind the counter willingly cashed out the largest of the 3 slips for a total of £5,500. With the company being valued at £2.2 billion, it was merely pocket change. For the rest of the money, they told him that he had to come back another day or visit another store. Now, he was happy with that interaction, so he left them £110 tip from his winnings. Although this is where things first start to go seriously wrong.
Your description will now be taken from CCTV and passed off with us. I need to remind you that if you're caught on site, you do run the risk of being arrested.
Why are you asking me?
You must leave these premises immediately.
This is incredible, it really is.
So the next day, the victim attended a nearby William Hill shop to collect. Upon producing the winning betting slips, the Hill staff member became quite hostile, again claiming that he didn't have the cash. It appeared that he didn't want to have anything to do with it in the shop. Now, with the employee being rude and refusing to pay out our man, he asked for the customer services number.
I've asked him nicely, and then when he started being rude to me, I asked him for customer services number. He realised he's in a mistake, and he's dug himself in a deeper hole, pressed the emergency services button to try and humiliate me.
Now, at this point, the employee wouldn't give it, although he did say that payment could be made to a bank card, which, in my opinion, was the first hint at the real reason that they were refusing to pay. You'll see why in a second.
Are you going to give me your name? Are you going to give me your details?
I'd rather not, thank you.
Now, without a UK bank account and only a day left in the UK, the victim rejected the offer. He paid in cash and he wanted his winnings in cash.
So if I pay in cash, I have to get the winnings in cash. He can't refuse to pay me because of anti-money laundering regulations.
So the William Hill employee responded by finally giving him the customer services number and then hitting the panic button to alert the police.
Right, so he's called the police because he's not got the cash to pay me out. Have I sworn? Have I raised my voice?
I've not been here.
Well, you can ask him.
Yeah.
He was being treated like a criminal for attempting to collect his money, quite literally. Shocked, but still wanting to get paid, he sat quietly in the corner of the store and awaited for the police to arrive. Now, you can see clearly from the CCTV that there wasn't any kind of argument.
Just to say, I've not sworn, I've not raised my voice, not been violent, abusive. I've sat out there, I've actually moved my chair because the gentleman was mopping.
Now, a lot of what was truly happening here is probably lost on anyone that isn't a professional gambler, so I'll explain from my personal perspective. William Hill wanted the customer's identity, but only because he'd won a large amount of money off of them. They didn't want to admit it, which is why they were offering to pay his winnings via card. It's a sneaky tactic to get his details so they can link it to an online betting account or other information that they may have. Then the info is used to start looking for any reason to void the payout. Just look at some of the reasons within the company's terms and conditions here. If someone else has sent you money, if you've bet with other gambling companies, used software, placed a bet on someone else's behalf, colluded with others, or materially breached their terms and conditions, their terms say that they can just keep your money. Interestingly enough, they're less concerned about losers colluding on bad tips. So next, the police turned up. After a short conversation with the shop staff and the victim, they realised that they were never actually needed.
And he's tried to humiliate me, and then he's got his colleague to call the police on me. So he's wasted 2 police officers' resources.
The emergency button and the police appear to have been used to intimidate the victim into leaving the shop. The 2 confused police officers advised our lucky winner to leave the shop for now and call customer services to collect the rest of his money later on. Frustrated at being treated like a criminal, he did. Now, customer services advised that he must collect the cash from the original shop in which he placed the bet, which is where things took a turn for the worse once more.
I know I'm not placing a bet, but you owe me money. So what's the reason? What's the actual physical reason you're asking me to leave?
On arrival, our victim was told to call customer services again. So he sat in the corner away from the counter and proceeded once more. After several confusing phone calls between the shop, the area manager and the customer services, he was told that he now needed to email customer services and verify his identity for regulatory and compliance purposes. Now, I can't show their faces in this video for obvious reasons, but the footage shows that shop staff clearly found it quite amusing. I'll decode that in layman's terms for you. They were now blaming regulation in an attempt to get access to his personal details again. It's a dirty practice that has become quite common in the world of online betting over the last 2 years, although it's bound to happen when the regulator puts the bookies in charge of policing themselves. Recently, the Gambling Commission's top brass said this to a parliamentary committee about it.
Whenever you're dealing with people's data, people want to feel that they can trust the way that data is being used, that it's not going to be misused. So as Andrew said, any data that is collected through this can only be used for the purposes of helping to protect consumers, cannot be used for commercial purposes. And if operators were to do so, then not only would they find themselves on the sharp end of regulation from us, but also from the Information Commissioner as well.
Although absolutely nothing has been done about this. In fact, they're giving companies like William Hill more power to go down consumers' bank statements in the name of safety and harm prevention. So once more, the victim sat in the corner of the shop whilst trying to resolve the issue. On reflection, the shop staff knew the game. They knew that it wasn't going to be resolved quickly.
What's the reason? What's the actual physical reason you're asking me to leave? Because
it's a private property.
Yeah, I know, but you owe me £6,500.
They asked our man to leave, claiming that he was on private property and had no business there. He didn't want to leave, he did have business there. He was collecting his winnings as he was leaving the UK a day later. So the staff called the police once more, this time putting the call on the store's tannoy system.
Your description will now be taken from CCTV and passed to officers. I need to remind you that if you're caught on site, you do run the risk of being arrested. You must leave these premises immediately.
Wow. This is incredible, it really is.
So shortly after, the police burst through the bookies' doors again. Although initially confrontational, they were confused again.
Have I once even sworn? Have I raised my voice? Yeah.
My colleagues came to
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah, they did.
One of the officers even spoke to William Hill's area manager via telephone in the store. A pure waste of taxpayers' money. Their conclusion that the victim needed to send more documents to customer services for regulatory and compliance reasons. You know, the ones that they weren't interested in doing when he initially spent £2,400. The ones that they repeatedly failed to do on gambling addicts. thus the £19.2 million fine.
I've got 2 slips, they can pay me 2,000. That person didn't have it, but they've got 2,000 to pay me, and then I can go to another shop and get 4,000.
Instead of using them for the reasons that they're actually intended, the government's obsession with open access to consumers' bank statements is used to add friction to withdrawals and avoid paying out, and the police are being manipulated into enforcing it.
Yeah, it is a civil matter, so I don't know why they're calling the police.
A day later, on the 16th of August, our victim sent all of his personal documentation and financial statements to William Hill's customer service department, who then shared it around with other third-party agencies as part of their check-in process. Who exactly that isn't clear. The victim simultaneously contacted his local MP and the Daily Mail at the same time, and then he waited. After 3 weeks, 2 days, a Daily Mail article, an intervention from his MP, the victim was finally instructed to pick his winnings up from a totally different William Hill store. But it's far from the first case of this kind, as highlighted previously in this video from last year. Go and check it out.